Hi guys, it's Deidre. Happy Sunday. It is Sunday evening. I just got back in the house from an amazing bike ride, but I wanted to make sure that this video got out today on Sunday because for the next few Sundays, the next 8 Sundays to be exact, so for the next 2 months, I will be uploading a video with the hashtag Startup Sunday. And I was inspired to do so because I receive emails and messages from people who are really inspired about my entrepreneurial journey, and certain posts that I post really resonates with them, and they're always like, oh, we want more, tell us more. And so I just decided, you know what, now's the time for me to do more. So for the next 8 Sundays or next 2 months, like I said, I will be uploading short videos here so that you guys can just kind of get a peek of my life and what has been going on with me starting my business. So every Sunday will be a different topic, and the videos will be fairly short, so 10 minutes or less. And I really need for you guys to email me or send me specific things that you are looking for me to discuss or talk about so I can make sure that you're getting the most from these videos. Now, it's really weird because I was a communication major in college, both undergrad and grad, and because sometimes I am on TV, but videos really scare me, so work with me. Being in front of the camera is really frightening. Even if it is on my own laptop at my own house, it still feels really weird. But I am just really passionate about getting this information out because I know firsthand how difficult it is to start a business or to even think about starting a business. Is hard. And what I would have given to be able to log on social media and see someone who's doing it and be able to follow what they're doing. I would have loved something like this. So, I can give up a few minutes on my Sunday to help you guys out. So here you go. So today, very briefly, I am just going to talk about, my journey. Very short, condensed version. So one of the questions that I get asked pretty often is, how did you know you wanted to start a business? Like, how did you know you were an entrepreneur? And that's a pretty good question, but my answer is usually, you just know. When you're an entrepreneur, you have that desire, you have that yearning, not to not work for anyone else, not to not answer anyone else, but you have that desire to start a business that fulfills desires, fulfills something that you're passionate about. And I knew for me, years ago that I was going to start my own business. I wasn't sure what it was going to be or how, it was going to go. I just knew that I needed to put all of my efforts and my energy into starting something of my own so that I could leave a legacy for my kids and so that I could do something that was going to challenge me. Because one of the issues I was finding for me working at a job was I just wasn't challenged. So I would go to work every morning and I would get my job done fairly quickly, and I would sit on the internet for the rest of the day Googling and figuring out how can I start working for myself. So let me backtrack and just tell you a little bit about me. So I finished college in 2009 with a degree in broadcast journalism. So I thought I wanted to be the next Oprah, as does everyone else who studies journalism. We all strive to be the next Barbara Walters or Oprah Winfrey's. And so I went to Florida A&M, got my degree. One of the best decisions I ever made. That school really prepped me for the real world. That school really prepped me to be a journalist, essentially. When I finished FAMU, I moved to Costa Rica actually for a few months. That after college, figuring my life out, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? And I had the opportunity to go to Costa Rica for a few months and study Spanish. But while I was over there, although I was enjoying my time over there, trust me, Costa Rica is and was great. I just had a yearning to go into the work industry. So I was over there applying for jobs day in and day out. And I finally got a call from a news station in Baltimore, Maryland. Now, I'm born and raised in Florida, and I had never, ever thought about moving to Maryland, never. But this opportunity presented itself, and I just couldn't turn it down. It was a station that Oprah Winfrey had worked at. They were offering me a very decent salary to be a recent graduate. But most importantly, it was giving me the opportunity to go somewhere new, to explore a new city. I just recently graduated, so I was looking for something new and exciting, and this job was going to give me that opportunity. So I packed up my bags 2 months after I was offered the job, and I relocated to Pikesville, Maryland. And that is, where my journey started, essentially. So I worked at the TV station for about 7 months. And while I was there, although I loved the people I was working with, I loved that experience, I was not happy. I was not happy going into work every day and hearing all the depressing stories and the hours working in news. I mean, like I said, I'm from Florida. I wasn't used to snow, and I remember one day it was snowing so bad, and I got called into work early because there was news that has to be covered. And I remember telling my supervisor, I don't know how to get to work. There's snow in my driveway. And she just kind of had this, are you serious? Get a shovel and shovel it. But I didn't even own a shovel. I didn't own an ice scraper. I didn't own any of that. So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So just moments like that, gosh, it's snowing, it's a snowstorm. I'd rather just be at home. I don't want to get on the road and go to work. Just little things like that kept happening. And I said, you know what? I want to do something new. So what does a person like me do? I started researching jobs abroad. And I had known someone who was teaching English in South Korea. So while going to work at the news station, I would do my work and get done with it and spend my extra time looking for jobs in South Korea teaching English. And I stumbled upon a company that was hiring. So I said, what's the worst that can happen? I've been at this TV station for 7 months. I love living in Maryland, but I'm yearning for something more. And so I applied for the job. And that took a few months, did all the interviews, and I ended up being offered a position to go teach English in South Korea. And my friends were like, are you kidding me? You're about to leave your job, leave Maryland, and go to South Korea? And I was like, yeah, and I'm really excited about it. So I literally had about 30 days to prepare to move from Maryland to South Korea. Now, the contract that I did was 6 months. So I was contracted to go and teach English for 6 months. And I remember I left the day before Valentine's Day of 2011. And I moved to South Korea, and I got there, and literally I was thinking, what the heck am I doing? What did I just do? I just quit my job at the TV station. I just left Maryland. I'm in South Korea. Deidre, what is going on? But in hindsight, going to Korea was one of the best things I ever did. It was an event in my life that literally made me stronger. Being in Southeast Asia by myself, I didn't go over there knowing a soul. It showed me strength that I didn't even know that I had. Strength to be by myself, strength to conquer the day, strength to be in this new country where I don't look like anyone, I don't speak the language. It was really, really tough, but like I said, it was one of the best decisions that I ever made. So I'm really, really happy I did that. So I taught English for 6 months, saved up some money, traveled around Southeast Asia, and that was just a phenomenal time of my life. Left South Korea, went back to Maryland, and decided that, I still don't know what exactly I want to do with my life, so let me apply for graduate schools. Applied to Bowie State University. I was accepted. I started, my tenure there, being a student there. And I remember one day, shortly after I was admitted, I set up a meeting with the dean of my program. And so I met with her and just told her a little bit about who I was, and told her I was excited about the master's program and just really excited about learning and networking and all the opportunities that were about to be in front of me. And so we just started talking about my international travels and my passion for international education. And so literally in that meeting, she says to me, well, they're starting a new program over the summer where we're going to send a handful of HBCU students to Jaipur, India for 3.5 months. She said, we'll pay for your flight, we'll give you a stipend, and you'll get college credits. So what do you think? And so I'm sitting in her office because I hadn't planned to find out about this. I hadn't planned to go to her and go to India. I was just going to her to introduce myself. to let her know who I was. I mean, I didn't have any motive behind going to meet her besides a true introduction. But here I was by the end of our conversation being offered an opportunity to go to India for 3.5 months. So I was super excited. I mean, not only was it going to be a free trip to India, but I was going to get to meet other HBCU students from all over. I was going to get college credit, get to study the Hindi language. I mean, it just sounded like a perfect opportunity. And so that entire semester, I made sure that I was on my P's and Q's, did the best could do in all my classes, ended up doing very well that semester, and she officially signed off for me to go to India, and I was just super excited. And I remember she bought my plane ticket, I had to go get a visa, and it was just all surreal. I mean, this was all happening super fast. I think I set up a meeting with her in January, and by that May, I was off to India. So, I mean, I had a few months, but still, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, it happened pretty quickly. So I went to India, and I just had the time of my life. And I met some of the most amazing people ever, some I still talk to this day. And that was just a great experience. So I had lived abroad in South Korea, and I also lived abroad in Costa Rica. So this was the third time that I was living abroad, but something was just so different about this. It was just a great experience, a great opportunity. And so I would literally journal while I was in India. And I said, you know what? I'm finding that when I'm traveling is when I'm happy, is when I feel complete. I'm finding that when I travel, my creative juices flow better. I'm finding that when I travel, I feel like I'm struggling, but in a good way. I feel like I'm being tested, but I keep passing the test. It just gave me an adrenaline rush, and I knew that I needed more of this. So I still didn't know what it was going to look like, but I said, you know what? I think, you know, this traveling stuff is going to work for me. I don't know what it's going to look like in my life later down the road, but I just have to stick with this. And so completed my time in India, and it was time for me to go back to Bowie State and finish out my master's degree, which I did. And when I got back from India, I remember I got to my apartment back in Maryland. At this time, I'm living in Greenbelt, Maryland. And I said, you know what? Okay, Deidre, you've lived in Costa Rica, you've lived in South Korea, you've now lived in India, you've traveled to many places for vacation. Okay, now it's time for you to be an adult. Okay, now it's time for you to get a real job, finish your master's degree, and be a real adult. I think I was 25 at this point. And I said, you know what? I really can't make a life out of this. You know, who am I kidding? Like, Deidre, you need to get a real job. So I searched and searched and searched, and I ended up finding a government agency that was hiring graduate students. And so I said, okay, perfect. They'll be flexible with my schedule. I'll work for the government, get perks. I mean, this is just a win-win situation. So I go in and apply, and everything moved fairly quickly. I think I applied and got interviewed and hired within a matter of like a month, which for the government is like unheard of. So I got offered this opportunity, my first salary job. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's like salary, like there's a comma in my, you know, annual salary. Like, wow, this is great. And so I went super excited. I remember I went shopping, bought clothes, like now I have to be a true professional. I got to go to work 9 to 5. I get one telework day every other week. This is going to be great. So the first few months was great. I mean, I felt like I was in a new environment, meeting new people. I was being tested. I really felt like I was learning, and it was really cool. It was good. But I remember by month 4, I started waking up in the morning, and I literally would dread getting up and getting dressed. And I didn't know why. Work was fine. I had coworkers who were pretty cool. We would do lunch every now and then. My job wasn't super hard. I was getting paid a decent salary. But I literally started waking up every morning with like a pit in my stomach, like, I can't do this. And I didn't know what it was. Like, I just knew that I could not do this. And I remember one day I woke up, and like I said, I was about 25 years old, and I sat on the end of my bed, and it was 5 something in the morning, and I was about to get dressed for work. And I remember thinking to myself, Deidre, you have no kids, you are only responsible for yourself, why are you waking up in the morning dreading going to work at 25? Like, you shouldn't be doing that. At 25, you should be going to a job you love, or even if you don't love it, you shouldn't be waking up every morning with this pit in your throat, like with this thing in your stomach. You just shouldn't be feeling that way. So I tried to ignore it, and I got dressed and I put on my clothes and I went into work, and I did that for a few more months. And then as fate had it, I had to take a trip to California. To this day, I can't remember why. I think I might have went for a conference, or I don't know. I haven't really tried to sit and remember what was the reason for me going to California, but now I think it was just fate for me to go. So I was in the LAX airport and headed back to DC or Maryland, and I was hungry, and my flight didn't leave for another 2 hours. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna go grab something to eat. So I go to the restaurant, and there's a lot of people, and so there's a long wait. So the servers say, you know what, we're really packed, really crowded, but we understand this is the airport, people have flights to catch, so this is what we can do. If you agree to sit with this guy, you guys can sit at this two-top or a two-person table, and you guys can just eat together, and that way you both can eat and get out. And so I was like, okay, cool, I don't mind, I'll sit with this guy, we'll talk. So we sat down, we looked at the menu, we started talking, just small talk. Hi, what's your name? What's your name? Where are you from? Where are you going? And he started telling me his story. So his name was Michael, and he told me that he was just returning home from a gap year abroad. And so I was like, oh my gosh, tell me more, like a gap year, what is this? So he started telling me about his experiences traveling to Australia and New Zealand and Thailand and all these exotic places. And I'm sitting there at the table and my mouth is open and I'm just like, wow, seriously? Like, oh my gosh, like I need to do this. And so he said, you know what? I knew that I wanted to take a gap year, so I started saving money. I did it for 2 years. I every penny I got, I put up. And finally, one day, I just quit my job. I booked the flight and I left. And I was gone for an entire year. Now I'm just getting back. And right then and there, I said, you know what? I must do this. This gap year that you're talking about, I must do this. He talked to me about how he blogged and met all these amazing people and all his great experiences. And I'm literally sitting there. I don't even think I finished my food. I think I literally sat at the table the entire time, like mouth open. Like I was just amazed. This guy was a little bit older than me, pretty much the same social economic background. And so I thought to myself, like, if he could do it, there is no reason why I can't do a gap year. So I went home and I was really pumped and really motivated and really excited. Like, I'm going to do a gap year. I had about a year left of graduate school. And like I said, I was working for the government. So I was making a decent salary. And so I said, you know what? For the next year, I graduate December 2013. But for the next year, up until I graduate, I am going to save a lot of money so that I can take this gap year. And that is exactly what I did. I went home, and if you've ever seen me at a conference, I always talk about my envelope trick. I'll save that story for another day. But what I did was all my extra money, I had an envelope, and I would put money in the envelope, And I did that for a few months, and then I noticed a couple $100 that I saved. And so I moved the envelope money into a bank account that I didn't have access to. So I elected not to have a debit card attached to this account so I wouldn't have easy access to it. And it literally became a game to me to start saving money. And so I would save and save and save. And then by the end, a month before I was due to graduate with my master's degree, I went in my account and I had almost $12,000 saved. And so I knew that now was the time for me to do this gap year. And I didn't tell too many people about it. I went and I applied for a work holiday visa in Australia, went through that process, got approved for it, went ahead and bought my ticket because I knew I was going to do this. And I didn't want to tell too many people because I didn't want anyone to talk me out of it. Like, what do you mean you're going to quit your good government job? What do you mean you're going to leave DC? People are dying to get to DC. People are dying to get a master's degree. People are dying to be able to work for the government. Like, what are you doing? You're 26. Life is made. Stay with the government. Retire. Die. I didn't want to hear it. So I didn't tell too many people. And I remember the day I got dropped off to the airport and caught that flight to Australia. And that is when my gap year began. And so while I was there, many of you are familiar with the book I wrote, Wanderlust for the Young Broke Professional. That book was just a bunch of my notes put together because everyone was saying, oh my gosh, like you're in Australia, you're on a work holiday visa. Oh my gosh, tell me more. And so I put all my notes into a book and wrote that book and traveled and met some of the most amazing people. I had a job at a hotel in Australia for a little bit, and that was just amazing. I was on Daydream Island, guys. After this video, Google Daydream Island, Australia. It is literally a dream. I mean, that is where I was living for a few weeks. Ended up going to Sydney, had an amazing experience. And so that time flew by in a good way though. Came back home, and now fast forward, a few months, I said, you know what, that is great. I've written this book, I'm speaking at conferences, I'm speaking at universities, life is great, but now I want to try working again, but let me try a different job this time. I know that I like to travel and I know I'm passionate about international education, so let me work for a study abroad company. So I started applying for study abroad companies, got an offer fairly quickly. I think from the moment I started applying to the moment that I got offered this job was about a month. And so I worked with this company for a year and a half, absolutely loved it. My job was to travel around and recruit college students to go study abroad. At the time, I was back in Florida, and my boss said, you know what, we want to move you to the Southwest. So you have a choice. You can live anywhere in the Southwest, we don't care. We just need you in either the state of Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, or Kansas. Well, I wasn't going to Kansas, I wasn't going to Arkansas, and the only city in Louisiana I would consider is New Orleans, but I didn't want to live there. So that only left the state of Texas. And so it was either Austin or Houston for me. Now, I can get into a whole nother story about why it was narrowed down to those two, but it was either Austin or Houston. And I remember coming to Houston on a work trip, and I was just like, wow, this city's so huge, it's so diverse, there's so many restaurants, there's so many universities, like there's so much potential here. And so I said, you know what, let me, on my next work trip to Houston, let me look for an apartment. And if I find something, I'll get it. If it's meant to be, it'll be. And I mean, fast forward, next month, I would have been here 3 years. So looks like Houston worked out for me. But yeah, so now I am at a point where Wanderlust Houston is on track to open in the next 6 months. And that is just amazing. And I wanted to share my story because not only do people always ask me about my story, so a lot of people think that I went to school and got an MBA, or a lot of people think that I just went straight throughout college, or they think I had the same job for years. But no, my story is totally not traditional. I had good jobs, quit. I went to school, left the country. I mean, I just did things totally like what your parents would tell you not to do is everything that I did. But it was the best thing that I could have ever done for myself because I was living for me. I was doing the things that made me happy, that made me fulfilled, and I couldn't ask for anything better. So yeah, so Wanderlust Houston will be opening in a few months, and it has been a pleasure to share my journey with you guys. Some of you guys have been just so super supportive. I mean, people donating to my campaign, people sending me t-shirts and candles and anything with the Wanderlust branding on it. People sending me links to stories about hostels and hotels. And I mean, people are just phenomenal. People that I've never met in my life are just so super supportive. And I just want to let you guys know it means the world to me because there's so many days that I spend crying and sad. This is hard. I don't want to make my journey seem easy by any long shot. It is not easy. There are many days that I'm crying and frustrated and that I want to give up. But when I think about people who have been so supportive like some of you are, it gives me that motivation to keep going. So I just want to say thank you for that. And I've been talking for some time now. So this is essentially the first video, just a little introduction more about me. So for the next 7 Sundays, you won't be wondering, who is this girl? What is she talking about? Why is she fit to talk to me about this? You'll know. So I'm really excited. I hope you've enjoyed the very rushed version of my life. But I'm super excited to, like I said, answer any questions that you guys have. There will be topics that I will address every week, but your questions I will make sure to answer in those videos because I want you to get something out of this. So thank you so much for listening to my story and following me along my journey. And I look forward to spending these next 7 Sundays with you guys. Have any questions, any comments, drop a message. And I cannot wait to get this show on the road, literally, like get this show on the road. So thank you guys so much. Remember hashtag Sunday startup, startup Sundays rather, hashtag startup Sundays. And yeah, I will see you guys later. Bye.